Okay, here is the tour of my craft room. I'm just going to start that wall there. This is my collection of pattern books. And the ones up top are notebooks, and these are patterns that I either scanned from a book and printed them so I could put them in a project bag, or they're from the internet. And I put them all in notebooks. And I labeled them according to categories so that I can find them. And because notebooks are wedge shaped, they can go around the corner here. So that's that. Let me back out again. I have some fans stored in the corner over here. But this shelf here, okay, underneath there, there's miscellaneous stuff underneath the cabinets. But these are my mostly cones of yarn or thread. Up top there's some more crochet patterns, the pattern a day calendar, there's a hat stand up there, some notebooks, that kind of thing. That bag right there is my Kumihimo braiding stuff. Then down there, like I said, I used to sell things on eBay. So this is my shipping department. There's boxes and manila envelopes and stuff like that. I didn't have anywhere to put my wig heads, so there are my foam heads right there. I have some more in the dining room because I film my tutorials in the dining room. This box full of stuff for shipping supplies. Then I have my books. I like to read, so I have some books up here. Then there's little drawers with miscellaneous pieces of hardware and all kinds of stuff. And there is a CD tower and some computer programs. There's my printer, and behind the printer is a shelf full of empty tote bags, project bags. Okay, that's pretty much that half. Up there, some more empty boxes and bubble wrap and stuff like that up on top. Okay, so then we move over, starting at the top. There is some fiber fill and a pillow form. There's a box the notebook cooler came in. There's two flatbed knitting machines up there. One in front of the other. One's a Goldie and one's a Brother. And then there's a box of miscellaneous craft supplies, and that box in the corner, that is vintage patterns. It's a whole kit full of patterns from the late 60s, early 70s. And then up there on the top shelf are shoe boxes full of craft supplies. There's my calendar, and the box above the calendar has bias tape in it. And then I'm going to just scoot down here before I go over. There is my TV, and behind the shelf over here is my ironing board. And is back there. Oh, and next to the ironing board is the foam mat I use for blocking. Oh, look, there's a duster on top of the TV. Wondered what I did with that. Okay, so now there's tubes right there. Let's see, where's my finger? There it is. Those tubes. That's cross-stitch fabric. That basket there's got some royal blue mohair yarn, and then those little things there are bottles of paint. The tulip paints I used to put on the bottom of slippers to keep them from being, make them non-skid. Then there's some little accessories here. Baby socks, you make some baby booties using those. Some purse handles, a can of dust for the computer. Some more purse handles, some gloves you can put cuffs on, and there's some ribbon yarn. Okay. And this is my wall O yarn. I have the bags in the top mostly are yarn sorted by color. I'm going to come a little closer here. Now like this here is just a big ball of mohair, acrylic mohair. But I will get yarn and then I'll find odd skeins that match it and I will bag it all together. Like this is all fall colors right here. There's some more fall colors in that bag. Then that is homespun, lime braid homespun up there. And on this shelf is mostly boucle yarn or homespun style yarn, except for the two big bags of big balls of Red Heart Super Saver in black. I always like to have lots of black, white, and cream on hand for doing scrap things, and everything will tie in. So yeah, this is all acrylic worsted weight yarn in this basket. That basket there's acrylic worsted weight and the Red Heart plush yarns. It's kind of a terry cloth. Excuse me. There's some more yarn. That there is a Christmas yarn. It's sparkly. And there's these baskets of yarn have miscellaneous in them. It's got all different kinds of stuff in it. This middle one has chenille and suede yarns in it, but I also have their medium worsted weight because I just didn't have room. Okay, that's just the shelves. Okay, let me back up a little more. You go down under the shelves. I'm going to sit in my chair. That's some yarn. There's the top shelf has cotton on it. The ones in the all the way to the right, those are wools. That's a wool ease there. That's miscellaneous on that shelf. There's some ribbon yarn on that shelf. There's cotton there. There's some more cotton there and more cotton there. Some mohair, cotton, and something called crepe vilain. It's a vintage polyester yarn. There's some yarn there that's wool from Ireland, from Neen. And then there's a cone of bright, really thick yarn. I have no idea what I'm going to do with that. And then there's two balls of novelty yarn. I think behind it is some red rug yarn. Oh goodness, and there's some more Red Heart plush in a like a mauve or a wine color. See, I just have yarn out the wazoo. Okay, and then down in the bottom is yarn in containers. This first container right there, that's got plarn. Like, I'm making yarn out of plastic bags. I don't have enough of other yarn, right? And then that is small balls of cotton. That is a jar of novelty yarns, like the fun furs and the plush yarns. Behind it is another full jar of it. There are odds and ends or single balls, scraps. Then the next jar over is rug yarn, and the one behind it is a jar of rug yarn. And then there's a plastic bag on top of your rug yarn that didn't fit. Then there's a jar there of cotton yarn. Then there is a knitting machine. These are circular knitters, my 3 circular knitters. The Innovations, and that one's little brown one's the Barbie knitter, and the one in the back, I don't remember the name of it, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't work. It drops stitches. It's a nightmare to work with. So yeah, so that is mostly my yarn. But let me back up further. That is latch hook. That stuff underneath there, there's some twisted paper stuff, and then underneath that is cross stitch and needlepoint plastic canvas. That thing there is a weaving loom that I'm thinking about getting rid of because I don't think I'm going to do much with it. There's an unfinished project bag. I did a video on that, and behind it is a bag of fun fur that's hair color for Wiggies. That basket's got fiber fill for mother bears and some yarn that I'm working on for myself that I got at Will You. That basket there is yarn I got at the thrift store. It's all blue and white. That basket there is yarn I got at Big Lots. And behind it, this is my looming corner. That basket on top has my Martha Stewart loom stuff in it. The box that came in fell apart. Next to it is my mushroom spool knitter. Underneath this, these are all my Nifty Knitter looms and spools. And that's the instruction booklets and the knitting tools I got at Harbor Freight. That is potholder looms with loops. On the bottom are my excuse me, oblong Nifty Knitters, and underneath it is my Serenity loom. In front of it is unfinished looming projects. There's 3. That basket, that tote bag has hairpin lace loom in it. Oh yeah, and these are little square looms. They're called potholder looms, but they're not, or granny square looms. They're not really granny squares though. Oh, then from my chair, starting down here, that's an unfinished project. That's an unfinished project. These are my Afghan hooks, and these are knitting needles. There's more knitting needles here and here. Inside here are more knitting needles and other supplies, latch hooks, and these tubes are for turning tubes of fabric around. There's one of those magnetic things for keeping track of cross-stitch or graft projects. And down here are circular knitting needles in this thing, in this pocket. And there's a toolbox. This bag has finished projects to be donated. That bag has the mittens that I need to write out the pattern for. Then, and most of you are familiar with this, my magazine rack. So in addition to the magazine rack, on the other side of the room, I showed you all those pattern books I have on the other side of the room. Next to the magazine rack is my cutting board, and below, down at the bottom, because just a little corner of it sticking out right there, those are my blocky boards. There's drawers, stack of drawers with yarn and ribbon in it. There's my little card table, or my folding table, with my ball winder and Swift and my postal scale. And then there's a thing I got at the community center. Somebody gave it to me. I'm not sure that it's for it, but I put the cone on that and bring it through the loop at the top of this wire to use the ball winder. So that's this side of the room. And up there is a picture that I cross-stitched of teacups. There's 3-dimensional cloths underneath them. That's a basin. It had my foot soaking stuff in it from when I thought I sprained my ankle, but it also has a jar in there with labels from yarn, and these labels from yarn have patterns on them, so they all get shoved into here, and just different stuff in there. Okay, I'm gonna sit back down. I knock some stuff out of the way. These are just empty buckets that you can put ball of yarn in while you're working on it, so don't roll on the floor. This jar of odds and ends of acrylic yarn, mostly scraps. I use most of it to make mother bears. These canisters, I'll put the ball of yarn in there, and when I'm crocheting with it, it won't go all over the floor. This one I haven't covered with paper yet, but this one was Clorox cleaning wipes, and this one here is Country Time lemonade jar. And then I have more down here. These small jars that came for Jelly Bellies. This one has wool yarn in it. And this one is acrylic. And these are the smaller scraps. The bigger scraps go in the big pretzel jars. Smaller scraps go in the jelly bean jars. Smaller scraps can be used as stitch markers. They can be used to sew faces on the mother bears. You can use them as waste yarn for your first knitting rows on the machines and everything. Then here's some tools. These are crochet hooks. This down here are stitch holders and measuring things and cable needles and stitch markers and all kinds of stuff. This red one has my jewelry pliers and stuff like that in it. This is one thing with my steel hooks in it. This is an empty tin. I will use it for something. This is a basket I made with Plarn to put a ball of yarn in so it don't roll on the floor. This is a vintage book someone gave me. This basket has odds and ends of stuff in it. It's a big granny square. It was going to make a dog sweater, wasn't enough yarn. These are scissor pouches that have my stitch counter, my tape measure, a yarn needle, and scissors. I have a couple of those. Here's some more steel crochet hooks. Like I said, this is miscellaneous. Like, I knitted a square because I saw in Afghan and I thought it was cool. And it was supposed to be kittens, but it looks more like owls. But I just made one square. And there's squares I've worked out and I just never done anything with. Oh, this should probably go with my knitting machines. These are our tablecloth weights that I use in my knitting machine. Down there are drawers full of junk. I'm not even going to bother describing what's in them because it's just junk. The one on top's more like office supplies, tape and scissors and stuff like that, and my stapler. This is a button box, and behind it there's, I'll show you that, another button box. This you put the foam head on. It's just something to hold the foam head. I have this bag hanging here so that when I use my ball winder, I can put a ball of yarn in there, or the skein of yarn, and have that hold it. Here's a tool thing. I mean, I've got my eyeglass cleaners and scissors and hole punch, and these M&M's containers are great for holding your yarn needles and stitch markers and just all kinds of stuff. I have scissors in the top. There's another little organizer. This one here has my memory cards and pin drives and all that kind of stuff. There's my computer, calendar, and back over to my printer again. So that's my yarn. That's my craft room. It's a big mess, and I love it. It's a mess, but it's an like I said, I live in a state of organized clutter. I'm going to turn this around. So, oh boy. Oh, it's more than 18 minutes. So I hope I didn't bore you all to death giving you a tour of my craft room. I might make this an interactive thing and go back through the craft room. And if you want to see the magazines, I'll go through the magazines in more detail, and the books in more detail, and the yarn in more detail, etc., etc., etc. I don't know if I'm going to do that or not, but that, you wanted a tour of my craft room, that's my craft room. And I didn't even show you underneath. There's a tote with dolls in it that don't have clothes on, so I can make doll clothes. There's a box with sewing patterns and a box with fabric in it, all kinds of stuff. So yeah, it's a crazy mess, but I like it. So if you have a craft room or a craft closet, I would like to see a tour of where you do your crafts. Now, you know, I showed you this yarn behind me, all that yarn. In the front room of my house, there are totes full of yarn too. Yeah, I think I have a problem. So, anyway, happy crocheting. I hope you enjoyed the tour. We'll see you soon.